Hello and welcome to the GMBN Podcast. Today we're joined by two OGs of the dirt jumping scene in the UK. Steve Geall, who has very kindly joined us, and our very own Chris Smith. Welcome to the show. Steve, you seem to have had a rich and varied career, not least as work as a stuntman in movies like 101 Dalmatians, but also 1998 world champion and British champion in BMX ramp. Also a previous world record holder for the bunny hop. Where did it all begin for you?
Well, I suppose it's through my dad, really. My dad rode for Rickman's and stuff, like motorbikes. And obviously he was a welder and stuff at Rickman's, so he obviously put a few bits of metal together and made me my first bike, and I was scooting around Horder where I used to live, like from pretty young age, probably 3, maybe even before that. So yeah, it started pretty early.
Because you have a similar background of kind of, BMX, bicycle motocross. Mm-hmm. It is very moto influenced. And you started on, was it Moto Trials?
Yeah, a little bit of Moto Trials and then BMX, and kind of that all sort of transgressed into mountain biking. So yeah, it's a similar sort of thing to Steve, messing around on bikes and then transferring it all across.
Because that, that term BMX, bicycle motocross, do you think that kind of mountain biking has kind of stolen its lunch a bit in the way that it is now? It is kind of more, how do you term BMX or dirt jump? What's your how did it end up like that for you?
It's just progression, really, I think, like with everything. It starts off as you sort of knew it when you were younger, and then you just see it change over the whole years and like to where it is now.
Yeah.
And that change has been pretty big. Like with the BMX, the bikes really haven't changed.
Yeah.
It's just the style of riding, and obviously the progression that's become on is pretty massive. Like.
Yeah, huge.
But then if you look at the mountain biking as well, where it's gone, like the bikes we used to do the stuff onto the bikes now, you can't even compare them. Yeah, they've got 2 wheels, that's probably about it. But
yeah.
like, they're so different. Different.
And what do you, kind of send this to both of you. You've both, obviously, pretty, you've seen a few summers, and you've kind of been around in the scene for a while. Now, like you said, BMX technology, with the frames, the geometry hasn't changed that much, but mountain biking, the bikes have changed drastically. But both sports have seen huge progression. So people often account that for, technological advancements in mountain biking. What do you account that for on BMX, Chris, and dirt jump?
I think the early days of sort of the biggest inspiration for me was the BMX movies, like we used to watch all the props, road falls and stuff, and I just saw those moves we sort of replicated on mountain bikes, and then we saw you turn up at a skate park on a mountain bike and people would be like, what the hell is that guy doing on a mountain bike at a skate park? And then you sort of adapted the mountain bike to be able to do those BMX style moves, like front brake through the steers, you could do bar spins and tail whips, and sort of those moves were made sort of possible. Then people kind of, I don't know, maybe it opened people's eyes to what we're riding a BMX. You thought, a mountain bike's a bit more universal. You can ride street, you can ride skate park, you can ride dirt jumps on that bike. And then we saw that change. And I think that kind of took a little bit away from the BMX sort of scene. Definitely in our, down our way, I saw the BMX scene sort of diminishing while some people were swapping across to mountain bikes and doing trialsy, streety stuff on the mountain bikes. So that was a big swap for me.
Yeah, because how was it for you, Steve, coming from that ramp style of BMX riding, which was, way ahead of its time, really, onto mountain bikes? What was your first foray into mountain biking like? Was it?
Basically, I had my BMXs. I could do a fair few tricks. So obviously, from winning the Worlds and the Brits and stuff, you're doing a few tricks on the old half pipes and ramps and stuff, which, when I crossed over to I did a bit of mountain biking, got my first mountain bike because a few of my mates got one. That's pretty much, and cycling to work because I'd left school, needed some transport, so I bought a mountain bike. That's the main reason really why I got one. But then I thought, well, why not do my BMX tricks on a mountain bike? And I went to, I think it was at Slough, the first photo shoot thing I did for MBK, I think it was. And that everyone couldn't believe, you do these tricks on a mountain bike. Wow, I've never seen anything like it before. Yeah. It's well, it's normal. I do this on a BMX though. But it seemed like no one else had seen it, which is really weird. And I still think it's weird now, looking back at it. But I suppose because no one's done it on a mountain bike, because they thought, mountain bike, you just ride down a hill or go for a ride, with a family or whatever. Yeah. And that's what they perceived a mountain bike as. They didn't realise you could do jumps and stuff like that. Yeah, admittedly, it didn't last very long. They did break, and the wheels weren't built for it, and there's a few bits cranks bent. But it was just natural progression. I thought you just do the tricks on a mountain bike.
It sounds like something quite similar with Nikolai Rogatkin, who came to that slopestyle scene maybe 5-6 years ago. And coming from a background of gymnastics and BMX, and he was doing, 720s. I think, I don't know how many times he's going around now. Yeah. But everyone was just like, how has this not happened? Well, how are you doing this? And he was just like, well, how has this happened before?
Yeah.
It seemed like a natural progression for him.
I think athletes like Nikolai have got that real good mix, as you say, gymnastics, and so they've got really good spatial awareness and their body movements and know where they are on his spin. I think once you've injected that into the years of BMX that Nikolai's done as well, it just adds a totally new element in there. I think back in the day, like some of the gymnastics, like Yannick Ranieri, he's a perfect example, really good gymnast and trampolinist and stuff like that. He mixed that in with mountain biking, and he was always ahead. He knew he could do these multiple spins and double backflips and crazy front flips and things like that, and he was a different level. But I think it's that blend of everything. But
it's funny because even within our sport of cycling, the riders that started on BMX is everyone from Chris Hoy to a lot of Aaron Gwynn. It does seem to be really, really good at getting your core. Did you guys ever race at all when you were younger, or was it always kind of on the BMXs straight to...
Yeah, I raced BMX and obviously the mountain bikes and stuff.
And cruiser as well, didn't you?
Cruiser, yeah, I raced pretty much everything, to be fair. But yeah, the BMX was cool, but it's got a bit of a younger age thing for me. Obviously, there wasn't really mountain bikes that were sort of worth riding or that I knew about back then, so I just stuck to my BMX. I did ride a bit of 24 cruiser class and stuff for a little bit, but that was just after I got into the mountain bikes and stuff, so I still had that sort of BMX power, so I could still sort of use it on the cruiser and stuff. Were pretty good.
I think the only BMX race I did was actually when you roped me into a race down at Bournemouth. I rode my mountain bike. It was a 24-inch mountain bike with 24-inch wheels. Race there, did all right, I think. I remember you with the gate dropping, didn't it? And it didn't drop, and you got flipped over the bars, and the gate landed on your arm, and you ran over your own arm.
That's pretty interesting. Fun times.
Yeah, sounds like an absolute pleasure. Because you just touched on something there: 24-inch wheels in a mountain bike.
This is your man.
Yeah, because I believe you did that kind of pretty early adopter.
Yeah, there was a few guys dabbling with it, and because I'd come from BMX, the 26-inch wheels were just horrendous. You do a jump, okay, it's cool doing straight and tricks was fine, but any twist, 360s and stuff, it's just so slow. It just turns so slow. So I started to run 24s and stuff, and there was a few other guys, I think, sort of back in the day, probably Rob Newman, I think, rode 24s, and a few other guys like Jimmy Pratt, but that was maybe a little bit later. But yeah, the 24s is a cool thing, but it got to a point where it's got to sort of move on a bit, because everyone was sort of saying, you're cheating, you're on a BMX, and it's not a mountain bike.
Exactly that. When I remember I went to Ciotta back in the early 2000s. I went to, I think John Cowan did a dirt jump competition there, and he was super strict about you have to be on 26-inch wheels. Wow. And I'd ridden for 4 years on 24-inch wheels, doing super fast bar spins and things like that. And then this comp's coming up, I got switched to 26-inch wheels, and it was a massive change for me. It just felt like going. I'm glad I did now, but back then it was just what, we got to ride 26. It seems so different.
For the uninitiated, could you just explain in layman's terms for somebody, a dirt jumper or a BMXer, what does a smaller wheel achieve, and what does a larger wheel achieve?
A small wheel, it rotates quicker. Basically, when you're spinning the bars or the bike's spinning, it's a shorter wheelbase, so it's going to spin a bit quicker. The bars spin better because the mass of the wheel isn't as big, so you need better bar spin. So basically, it just does make stuff slightly easier. The wheel clearance as well from your foot. With a 26, with the steep old style geometry on the mountain bikes, you'd buzz your foot on, even for X-ups, you'd buzz your foot on your front foot on a wheel.
Being like Sideshow Bob sort of.
Yeah. So with the 24s, that sort of eliminated that a bit. So it was a plus. There was a lot of pluses for it.
Yeah.
But then it did get to that point where it's a lot of other guys are doing that now or with 26s. So it's you couldn't get away with doing it now.
That's been, I think, prevalent and all the way up to where we are today. I've had to adapt from, riding with Steve, we were on 24, then it was obviously switched to 26, and you'd have to adapt those tricks to 27.5, then 27.5 plus, and then, we're still having to do those tricks on 29-inch wheels now, and it has sort of changed. I think it's a progression of the bikes. You've had to adapt to the wheel sizes too.
And without derailing this conversation too much, and without getting everybody, maybe could be some tender feelings about, and going into the wheel size debate, You had a bit of downhill now, am I right in thinking? You race a fair bit. Coming from somebody that was originally on a wheel that was almost a third less in terms of size, do you like the 29s or?
29 is good, yeah. I mean, it's obviously rolls over stuff faster. It's a lot quicker, and time's obviously shown that.
Yeah.
I prefer the way sort of like a 27.5 wheel feels because it changes direction a little bit quicker. The 29's a bit slower in corners and stuff. But overall, when you get used to it, you don't notice you got 29s. Like you just totally get used to it. So yeah, it's not really a problem after a while.
No. For sure, I feel the same. I think I've jumped from those different wheel sizes, 27.5 and 29. And to be fair, I feel the 29 is faster, but I have more fun on a 27.5.
Yeah,
I think.
well, that's fun is fast. So if we could kind of go back into that sort of, mid-90s dirt jumping scene. And it was, I think, one of the reasons that dirt jumping, I think if you stopped a random person on the street, maybe not so much now, but definitely when I started riding, you said, what is mountain biking? They'd either think it was doing big jumps or riding along canal towpaths. They didn't really understand the concept of something like trail riding or why that would be fun. You must have had huge exposure in terms of UK media especially. In terms of being kind of a pioneering dirt jumper, how was it like making a living in the UK? Where would your living come from?
From money from the sponsors and stuff like you get. Back then, I wouldn't say it was easier to get sponsored, but there was less good people at the time. Like, you try and sponsor someone now and it's a minefield. There's so many good kids out there that really do deserve to get sponsored. Back in the day, there was a handful. A few people that had a few titles and stuff, so obviously, sort of deserved what they got at the time. But yeah, you just had to ride some races, like be a privateer, go to races, and the teams see you ride, they'll sponsor you. But yeah, that's moved on obviously from that now, and like Instagram seems to where you get your sponsors from.
Instagram is huge, yeah.
Which I think is pretty weird, but it's the way it's going. So
yeah, I think back in the early days there was like the races, and then there was this new like emerging scene, which was like the dirt jump free ridey stuff. And if you were one of those early adopters, it kind of got you noticed a lot easier. Like I did my fair share of racing back in the day, four cross and a bit of downhill and things like that. But when I turned to like a dirt jump free ridey kind of rider, then you got that publicity.
Yeah.
And I think the magazines picked up on that as well, and that was a massive part. I think both of our careers was like mags like MB UK and dirt and things like that. Like we'd just go and do a big feature in there, then the big companies would see you in there, and then they'd offer you some money to ride their bikes, and just sort of a snowball from there really. So
and how strong was the UK scene? What was the UK scene like?
it's good. Back from, I don't know, probably 98 maybe onwards.
Yeah.
It was pretty massive. Like the dirt jump scene was probably as big or better than like the main sort of downhill whole mountain bike thing, really. Like everyone was jumping. There was so many trails about.
Yeah, every set of woods you go and you'd see
there'd be some trails.
And stuff, yeah.
So it was massive.
Yeah.
And every company pretty much did a jump bike.
Yeah.
I mean, what companies do now? There's hardly any.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was pretty massive back then.
Or maybe they do a jump bike, but it's kind of one of those kind of staple bikes that gets updated once a decade, and just gets different colours every year.
Yeah.
But why do you think there was such? Where do you think that the core of the dirt jumping community, all the kids that would find themselves on BMXs, and do you think that they're kind of off into mountain biking? Do you think mountain biking is now offering something that dirt jumping isn't, or do you think maybe mountain bikes have just got so good they can kind of do it all?
I think it was initially it's either how tall you were. So like BMX at the time didn't really make specific bikes for specific things, like a trail bike, a park bike, and a dirt bike, which people do now. It was just one frame, and you had to do everything on that one frame. And as a lot of mountain bikers probably won't get it, but the BMXs, like the increments on the top tube size is tiny. If you ride a bike, say like a 21-inch top tube bike, and then you go to a 21.25, which is not a lot bigger, it feels so much different.
Oh, really?
So like the gap changes are so small, but it's so significant on the way it rides. So a lot of people back then obviously were getting off their small BMXs onto mountain bikes because they were a bigger size, and found that they could ride trails so much better because it's way more stable.
Yeah.
But now, obviously, you can get BMXs anything from sort of 19 up to 23. Like even I think race bikes might even be bigger than that. So, you know, there's a lot more versatility on what the bike's going to do. Whereas back in the day, you'd sort of struggle on the one frame that's what they made. I think, I don't know, maybe S&M made something that was slightly bigger. I think back in the day they had the dirt bike and then the Holmes, which was a 21, pretty much first 21, I think, sort of dirt specific bike out there really.
It sounds similar to this kind of, you know, conversation that's going on, getting bikes bigger, finally able to fit more riders, and you're seeing riders like Greg Menard whose results seem to go in the correlation to frame size in recent years. And I imagine it must have been hugely frustrating, even if not appreciated at the time. I mean, someone like you're 6 foot, Chris, 6'1"?
Yeah.
How was it for you kind of have you kind of felt your riding's been unleashed getting onto bigger bikes?
I was actually thinking about just that thing this weekend, actually. I've just recently swapped to like a new Canevo, which they've massively updated. So I ride an S4, which is the equivalent to last year's XL. And previously I was just riding a large. But when I first started riding, I was always going for those smaller bikes because I come from that dirt jump background, you know, short top tube bars, big high ride bars. And I was kind of used to that cockpit. But I think now I've adapted to those bigger bikes, and it does feel, I don't know whether it just feels more like comfortable. You've got a lot more room, but not necessarily better. It just feels more comfortable. Do you know what I mean? You've got room to move on the bike. You're not all cramped up. But I think trick-wise for me, I still quite like the smaller bike. Maybe it's just because of what I've been used to for the odd, 15, 20 years. But I don't know about
it's going back. I think it's going back to that now. I was the same as Chris. Coming from BMX and stuff, I thought, I'll just get the smallest mountain bike I can get because I'll be able to do everything. It would feel nice, and it's like couldn't be any more wrong. It still feels horrible because it's not BMX, but it was a bit more stable. But for years, I went buying mediums when I should have gone large, and the difference it makes going to the right bike for you is amazing on a mountain bike.
Because when you first got into mountain biking, then coming over from BMXs. Were you going for the extra smalls? How was that working out?
Used to ride a woman's bike, didn't you?
Was that just
ride a ladies? 875.
Perfect.
When I was doing the bunny hops and stuff.
I imagine it was either purple or teal because some things never change.
It was actually a mixture.
It was, silver and teal, yeah. So
but that's just
best of both worlds.
Yeah, they're just mountain biking industry. There are two colours, the only two colours women like, purple and teal.
But that was specifically for dirt jumping and the bunny hop thing, really. The smallest bike they did at the time. The gents bike wasn't quite small enough.
Yeah.
So, we went down the ladies' route, as it were.
13.5 frame. Actually, so I'm not going to take the mix.
So, but they were good at the time. It was good. And it obviously it didn't look like a lady's bike, you know. But
no sweeping top tube.
Yeah, basket. No, that didn't have any of that. But no, it was good. But then you realise when I bought my first full suspension bike, I think I bought a small, and I got on it and I thought, this doesn't seem right. But I think I had it for like a year and a half, 2 years. I thought, I'll get something bigger. And then I got a couple of mediums, and it still didn't feel right. And the first year I got a large, I thought, this is horrendous. It's massive, but I just gained so much speed from riding that large because it fitted me better and it just felt a lot more stable, and it's just a better bike all round.
Because I was talking to Martin last week about being able to identify riders with a trials background on their mountain bikes. Now, apart from sometimes you do see riders with a BMX background who seem to have 780 bars, but then holding them at 600 wide. Apart from that, can you guys tell people with a strong dirt jumping background on a mountain bike?
On the trail, I think real good thing about like BMX and skate park riding and street riding is being able to like manipulate the ground, and like every single landing you're like hitting, you're pumping the ground, you're hitting that landing perfectly, the shape in the air, the confidence. It's just like, I think skate park and street and trials, it should be like a staple backbone for riding.
If you had a section probably 50 foot long, a section of like a route section with maybe a couple of whoops in and stuff, and you sent 10 riders down there, you could probably pick them out, the BMXers out of the mountain bikers, because the mountain bikers would just be trying to pedal through everything. And
I'll be putting my hand up here.
And the BMXers probably wouldn't even pedal. No. They'd just be finding backsides to pump and land, pick up over stuff, and it's you'd tell.
And if you had because you've got a young lad. Have you got any kids?
No.
No. If you had your young lad, will you be kind of sort of encouraging him to BMX or
I think
trials or
trials,
motors?
BMX, all that stuff? I think is, as I say, it's a real good. It's a massive backbone for me. I think you got some amazing riders who've come from trials alone. I think big names like Chris Ackrig, for example, is an absolute machine. And his trials background is still prevalent now, and he's adapted that to I think he's national downhill champion masters, and his video segment still to this day
still amazing.
Yeah, still amazing, and that power and the bike skill that he's got from trials is a massive part of that.
Yeah, because when talking to you guys, similar when I was speaking to Martin last week, I had an overwhelming sense that I had wasted all of my time in talking to Martin about the basic trial skills.
Yeah.
And talking to yourselves about, and you do see videos of kids that, maybe riding for a couple of years, but their brain's like a sponge at that age. I had a misspent youth playing ball sports, so I can subsequently pick up a ball sport really, really easily. But I didn't come into riding mountain bikes until when I was 18, 17, 18. Is it too late for me? Should I just be getting on a dirt jump bike, getting some wide cut jeans, starting a bonfire and riding dirt jumps on my Saturday afternoons?
I think a misspent. I would say it definitely is.
You definitely have the wrong jeans on. I think. You want some skinnies on there.
Oh yeah, shows I'm behind the times. I really am, eh?
But I think for me, every spare minute, literally, I was riding my bike. Be it sort of, as I say, street trials, all these different disciplines. Be it after school, taking a bike away on holiday was all bike time, and I think it just does. You're the same, aren't you? You've ridden every spare minute, and all the way up to to where we are today, riding every spare minute. It's just going to give you those skills.
It's definitely harder, but you can get someone who's 18 who's quite naturally gifted on a bike and can just come in, and you think, he's been only riding for a year and he's doing that. So, well, there's people that can do that, but a lot of other people have to work at it. But I think it helps the more you ride. Obviously, the more bike time you got, so the better you're going to be.
Yeah.
A lot of people are more confident than others, so that sort of takes that side as well.
Mindset,
if you're not confident on a bike and you come into 18, you're not going to do as well as someone who is.
Yes.
So there's a lot of things that sort of a bit of give and take to it that can make you better.
And speaking of confidence, either misplaced or otherwise, brakeless on BMX. What's your two opinions on it? Starting with you, Steve.
It's when you see some of the edits of the top guys riding, like Dennis Ennison, Chad Curley, and all these guys. It's phenomenal what they do. It's amazing because, I struggle to do stuff with a brake half the time, and you see them doing it with no brakes, or these nose manuals and the street lines they do. It is amazing. But the bad side for me, and it's probably because I'm getting a bit old and all that now, is that kids riding no brakes on the street. You just can't do that. There's too much that can happen. People have obviously lost their lives and stuff riding bikes with no brakes. And that's not good. If I know it's going to happen and whatever, but riding in the park with no brakes, I've done that. It's not a problem. But you haven't got a bus or a car coming out the side road or anything. Yeah. So it's how you want to make it. If you want to ride your bike with no brakes, fair enough, you do that. But I don't think that's right.
I think it's cool is if you've already got those skills with the brake, for instance, just a basic skill like a tyre tap. If you can do it with a brake, and then you do some other tricks, like bar spin to tyre tap to really advance it, then you go back, take your brakes off, and challenge yourself by removing the brakes. It becomes another thing. But I think if you're trying to learn those skills, it becomes super, super hard, and you get probably pretty annoyed with it and chuck your bike and not learn that skill. Whereas I think it's just progression in your riding is to learn all that stuff with a brake and then learn it without a brake. It's a challenge rather than trying to learn to do a massive manual without a brake. It's cool, but I think it's the wrong way around.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that we on the channel have dabbled with the death grip thing, and it is an idea that really does capture people's imagination. I remember seeing an edit of Matt McDuff around Barcelona brakeless, I think on a 24-inch, maybe even 26-inch dirt jump. And it was just amazing. And there is something about that as sort of an artistic endeavour that really does, it speaks to the viewer, and it really compels people.
The bike looks cool with no brakes. It looks cool, it's just simple lines and stuff, it's just uncomplicated. So it does make the thing look cool. And I've ridden BMX and stuff a fair bit, with no brake. And you've got to think even more further ahead than what you do obviously with a brake. Even stuff comes up quickly at you with a brake, it's twice as fast.
Yeah.
You can sort of it's almost like you spent years of trying to pump stuff, whereas with no brake, you're trying to not pump stuff, trying to take that speed away.
Yeah.
So it is another form of riding. It's completely different. But
Again,
it's amazing.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the guy we've already talked about, Akrig, he did a brakeless edit as well on his trials bike. Now, trials without brakes is a total different league again, Trying to get that balance point without a brake for trials moves and landing with no brake to another, hopping around without a brake is definitely pretty cool. It's definitely comparable to those top BMX edits that you see.
Yeah, because, speaking of names, like Chris Akrig, who are your riding heroes? I'm thinking like the big names like Dave Mirra, Matt Hoffman. Were they kind of very kind of omnipresent for you, looking over the pond, or perhaps?
Yeah, Mirra and Hoffman. Like over here, the guys sort of top used to ride with, like Jason Davis, Simon Tabron, Jamie Bestwick. Obviously moved to America and did pretty well, I think. So yeah, just them really, just people I used to ride with that were just slightly better than me and like would do stuff. I wouldn't. I was obviously fairly good back then, but then Jamie, they'd just push it to another level where I wasn't sort of probably willing to sort of go that far, and like I didn't want to sort of crash and hurt myself. And it's a hard one to say, but like obviously Tabron and Jamie were pushing it pretty hard back then. There's a few other guys, but yeah, maybe them. Like, most of the Americans, because you used to buy the American mags like Freestyling magazine and back in the day, and just look at all the American stuff, like Todd Anderson, Mike Dominguez, Eddie Fiola back in the day. Just it was all BMX really. I never really had any sort of mountain bike heroes, I wouldn't say.
Yeah.
But when I crossed over, obviously I got to sort of learn and sort of know about Steve Pete, Rob Warner, and all that lot. So
I imagine you did.
Yeah, and obviously the Martins and stuff through the trials and stuff. So you sort of got to know it, but they weren't necessarily my heroes as sort of BMXer, because I was just looking up to BMXers then, so I wasn't really interested in the mountain bike thing. But when I crossed over, you find a few,
Yes, I bet you do.
For me, I think it was definitely more mountain bike. I think in the early days, I think guys that stood out for me from the BMX side was like Van Homan, Corey Nastasio, people like that. They were like the last sort of people, heroes from BMX, but then it went more mountain bike for me. So people like Steve Pete, Rob Warner, Martins, a lot of the UK guys, because I just saw how much sort of fun they were having back in the day.
If you were kind of, what section of the scene, be it BMX, trials, dirt jump, downhill, enduro, what kind of sub-genre of mountain biking really inspires you to ride today in 2019?
Still the jumping, like the dirt jump scene, like.
I think your first love is a precious thing, in terms
it is.
In terms of inspiration.
I way prefer doing that than anything. Like even now, the last couple of years, I've got another sort of hardtail and just been riding jumps again, and it's honestly like I've been born again. It's like it's mental. I love it. I absolutely love riding a bike. If someone said they're going to the trails, I'm there.
Yeah.
And it's just the same. Like Jimmy Pratt, the same. Like it's really crap that his back's bad and stuff at the moment, but. Hopefully he'll sort that out and get back on it. But there's nothing better than seeing Jimmy go through some trails. He's got a little guy, Jeremy Coe, I think, that sort of digs at his place at Leatherhead, and he's got the same style as Jimmy, like Ralph Baggs and that, like, all up there. It's just sick to watch. Like it's just they just pull back and go so high. It just looks cool,
Yeah. It's amazing to watch people, still like floating through trails. I still love watching all the guys like at Crankworks and stuff. Like if you watch Reader or Semenek or Rogatkin, I think Crankworks is still like mind blowing the stuff they're doing. But I think for me, I think Rampage, that style of riding is always going to be key for me. Like that going big and with tricks and style, and that I think is what I look forward to.
If Rampage had come 10, 15 years earlier, or perhaps your careers had come 10, 15 years later, when you were sort of had, reckless abandon, a young guy looking at Rampage, would you guys have been keen for that?
Definitely,
Yeah, definitely.
I definitely think you would. I mean, we talked about your kind of background in freeride. And yourself?
Yeah, definitely, yeah. I mean, when I was living in Frome and stuff, me and Chris used to always go and find out the stupidest thing to ride down or do stuff. And I mean, some of the stuff was pretty stupid, to be fair.
Huge
back then, on the bikes we were on, it was a bit stupid. But, we did it. I'd love to. I mean, it looks pretty gnarly now, to be fair, like the big gap stuff, but that's obviously progression on the bikes and stuff. But there's no reason why you couldn't ride down that stuff or the original site they had. Like you could make a line down, not a problem, I don't think.
Yeah.
It's funny because you have some people like Brett Reeder or Emil Johansson perhaps, who are obviously fantastic bike handlers.
Yeah.
But the first, I mean, especially in the case of Reeder, the first Rampage, I think even he would say that he was kind of out of his element a bit.
Yeah.
And it really, really challenged him. How would you even prepare for an event like that? Based in southwest of the UK, what would you even do, you know?
Go and ride my quarry. No, I don't know.
Go quarrying. Geologist Chris, back out with a vengeance.
I just think you just need, if I was going to ride Rampage like this year, for instance, I would have ridden a downhill bike for the last year. I would have ridden bike park jumps. I would have went literally any style of riding, you know, be it BMX sort of trails or going, you know, downhill riding. You just have to go and hit the biggest stuff. You'd just be 100% confident with that bike.
Yeah.
Even like, I know it sounds weird, but you'd have to get confident, even like riding it on the street, just confident going into like a drop and like 180 off of it or trying 360 it in the street and just knowing that bike inside out and just that be your go-to bike for that whole year is the only way you're going to. And I think there's a real thing that you have to be careful of with training for something like Rampage is by doing that big stuff over and over again, all right, you need to be comfortable with it, but within that becomes a massive risk. It doesn't even need to be you fail, you know, crash, or you can just slip a pedal, smash your shin, or drop a foot and crank, you know, roll over your foot and break your ankle. It's massive risk, and to be able to, you know, take all those risks and get it in ready to go for Rampage is something, you know, in its own already, you know.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. You want to be 100% confident of that bike, especially
throwing big every day.
yourself,
But as I say, you just need to make sure you arrive there. That's the other thing. You need to like maybe wind it down now and again, just to make sure. But definitely being comfortable.
Yeah, swapping and changing bikes all the time, like from BMX to mountain bike, that you couldn't do it because the bike feels just tiny. You know, you get on a BMX, it just feels so twitchy with the head angle so steep.
Yeah.
That's another reason why I got another jump bike. Just for trails, like from riding my big bike to sort of like a jump bike, it's a less bigger gap to drop to, so it just feels more comfortable. BMX, I struggle, like I can get through stuff, but I don't feel confident. Like when I get on my jump bike, 26-inch wheels, it just seems way more confident. It's just something I'm more used to riding. So yeah, it just feels a lot better. So I can imagine that would be the same thing for something like that.
I remember actually I was at a skate park actually, just riding a foam pit on my big bike just to dial in some tricks. I think I was trying to like learn suicide 360s on a downhill bike. I got them dialed, but then I was like, that's enough. I was tired of slogging this big bike around a skate park. So I got my jump bike out, dropped in down the rolling, and I remember being so close to going over the handlebars just on the compression at the bottom of the rolling because the head angle was so much steeper and the forks were so much stiffer. It felt like my forks like snapped pretty much. It just went back underneath. I was like, oh my God, this is just totally alien, and just putting it in the car and going home.
It's weird.
And you know, with that, I just want to say thank you very much for all your insight in dirt jumping, BMX, mountain biking, and otherwise.
No worries.
If you want to listen to this podcast, you can also check it out on all your normal streaming services, be it Spotify, iTunes, what have you. Thank you very much. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
There you go.